it's Red Lightning and welcome to episode 12 of Life. So we should just get started. Let's start with the song of the week. Today's song of the week is Speak Life by Toby Mac. Okay, something sweet. No, wait, I was about to sing the wrong song. Oops. Okay, let's see. Here we go. What Toby Mac is saying in the song is that we have the strength to build people up, or break people down with just our words, and we should use our words to speak life. I can't remember. Some days life feels perfect, other days it just ain't working. The good, the bad, the right and wrong, and everything in between. Okay, that's the song of the week. And now let's move on to the verse of the week and the explanation. Today's verse of the week is 2 John 1:6. And loving means living the way he commanded us to live. And God's command is this, that you live a life of love. You heard this command from the beginning. This verse defines the kind of love John speaks of. Here it means obeys God's commands. Love is not merely an emotion, but requires actions based on truth. Here the exact Greek word is agape, translated as love, specifically meaning a selfless focus on other people. John's use of it here certainly includes emotional aspect, but is much more specific than most modern definitions of love. The primary example of this kind of love is Jesus, who showed it through his life and actions. It includes loving one another as well as walking in obedience to God's truth. John re-emphasizes that this command is one the reader should already be familiar with. He repeats that loving one another is not optional. It is a command because it is a fundamental command connected to Jesus himself. Believers are to walk in it or believe it, attempting to love apart from God's truth. Oh, sorry, I'm kind of drooling. It's not illegitimate according to this letter. Now, let's move on to the childhood thing of the week. Today we're going to do another VeggieTales, but today we're going to be doing the episode, The Ballad of Little Joe. Okay, sorry, it feels warm in here. Whew. Now he's put on this ponytail, then we can start with The Ballad of Little Joe. Okay, now where was I? Here we go. Opening countertop. Bob and Larry get a letter from a kid named Pete McGinnis, who hails from the Newcastle, Indiana, who is very depressed because all his buddies are in one teacher's class, but he is in a different teacher's class. So Pete wonders if God really does love him. Why did this bad thing happen to him? Bob then tells Pete that he knows a Bible story that can help a lot, but Larry quickly stops him, telling him that he thought they were going to do a Western. Bob is confused before Larry tells him that the promise that they do one, right before Larry went to cowboy camp. Bob then tells Larry that he needs a Bible story, but Larry tells Bob that he promised, which Bob is still confused. Because of that, the argument ensues between Bob and Larry whether to tell a Bible or Western story. They eventually compromise to do a westernized version of a Bible story, which Larry is happy to hear. The Ballad of Little Joe. Bob narrates that a long time ago, way out in the west somewhere, there lived a group of cowboys brothers on a ranch known as the Okie Corral. One of the brothers, named Reuben, greets the viewers with a "Hello, little doggies." After that, the rest of the brothers were introduced, who are all named Simon, Levi, Izzy, Zeb, Gad, Ash, Dan, Natty, and Jude. There was also baby Benjamin, but he was too little to come outside. There was also one more brother named Little Joe, played by Larry the Cucumber. Little Joe then comes out from the ranch house, to which Jude says, "Look who finally decided to get up." Joe tells his brothers to hear about the dream he had last night, but Jude tells him to be quiet because they are working. Little Joe understands. Before Bob narrates that little Joe was a little different than his brothers, because aside from talking differently, God gave him great organization abilities, to which Jude quips, "You should see his sock drawer." Little Joe then asks his brothers what kind of work they're doing. Reuben answers that they must count their sheep, but every time they do, they fall asleep, which some of the brothers do. Little Joe then suggests that they put the sheep to sleep in groups of 5 or 10, so that it couldn't be boring. So they can count the groups of course. Reuben and Jude think this idea is ridiculous. Before Jude turns to tell his brother to quietly tell them to put the sheep in groups of 10. Before little Joe can tell his brothers about his dream, the breakfast bell starts ringing, courtesy of their father, played by Pa Grape, who announced to come and get it. The brothers then quickly rush back to the ranch house, leaving the sheep that are still stacked in groups of 10. At the breakfast table, the brothers are ready to chow down when Pa comes into the room, telling the boys that today is Little Joe's birthday. Little Joe is feeding baby Benjamin when he hears this news. Before the family servant, played by Mr. Lunt, pops into the room while carrying a birthday cake. Soon Pa then, as the brothers sing a westernized birthday song for Little Joe, though they do it rather reluctantly. After the song ends, Little Joe tells Joe tells them that they shouldn't have before Paul gives him a special gift, which is a vest of many colors. This makes the brothers even more sour, since the only gifts they've been receiving on their birthdays were mittens, and they've been tossing into the old moose head hanging over the fireplace. Oh man, I'm tired. Sorry. After blowing out the candles on the cake, Little Joe proceeds to tell the brothers and Paul about the dream he had last night, explaining the song that there were a dozen cacti and stood underneath the desert sky, where the 11 of the cacti, which represents Little Joe's brothers, bow down before the 12th cacti, which represents Little Joe himself. After Little Joe, why do I keep saying Joy? Joe finished explaining this dream. Jude angrily asked Joe if it means that he will rule over them like a king. Before Paul says it was just a dream and it won't really happen. Before telling Joe to lay off the bratwurst before bedtime, Bob then narrates that Joe's dream didn't make his brothers like him any better. Later, Jude, Reuben, and the other brothers then lead Little Joe to an abandoned mine shaft before Jude tells him that it was where they hid his birthday present. Little Joe then states that they are very creative before Jude tells him that it is time for him to get what is coming to him. Little Joe then peers down into the mine shaft, but he doesn't see anything. Before Jude tells him that he's not looking hard enough, Little Joe doesn't see anything in the mine shaft before his brothers suddenly push him in, which causes him to fall into the mine shaft. After picking himself up, Joe then says that a goat must have bumped him or something, before asking his brothers to help him up. Jude then says, "We love to, but we're busy bowing down before you." Before he and the other brothers start laughing, Little Joe says that it's not funny, with Jude saying that made him laugh. Before a bandit walks up to the brothers, with Joe asking who the mysterious person is, a rope falls down in front of Joe before a mysterious person tells him to tie the rope around his waist. Joe then climbs up the rope before seeing the ones who threw the rope down to him were a pair of bandits, played by Scallion 2 and 3. The bandits then pull Little Joe forward before tying him up and gagging him, before throwing him into their horse and taking him away, while Jude and the other brothers bid him happy trails. Sorry, I'm tired. 1 year later, in a town called Dodgeball City, at a place called the Rootin' Tootin' Pizza Place, a bunch of voices are heard singing about Little Joe ever since his arrival inside the pizza place. Little Joe is now serving as the waiter at the restaurant, serving pizzas and root beer to all of the carrot cowboys that attend the place, while the pioneer of the restaurant, Mr. McPot, I can't read it, played by Scooter Carrot, sings about how a year ago his restaurant was losing money, and now he thought he would go insane before Little Joe, why do you keep saying Joy? Joe came along and turned the ship right. The Carrot Cowboy then praises Little Joe for all that he's done for the restaurant. After this song ends, Mr. Carrot, I'm going to say that because I can't say his name, tells Joe that it looks like a record month. Before the music starts playing, which Little Joe serves peanuts to the customer during the dinner show. The restaurant performer Miss Kitty, played by Madame Blueberry, starts singing about how she's so blue, and she keeps getting interrupted several times by Little Joe serving peanuts to the customers, which causes her to storm away in a huff. Little Joe then gives Mr. Carrot the money that customers had given before telling him that the peanuts make the customers really thirsty and he wants to serve them a lot of root beer. Mr. Carrot then tells Little Joe that he's a natural before telling him that he's earned the position of Employee of the Month, which Little Joe is elated to hear. Of course, Miss Kitty is rather bitter when she sees that she's been spur of the Employee of the Month. Because of this, she goes to talk to Little Joe, telling him to take the money and get out here, but Little Joe tells her, "Why would I do that?" before hopping off. Miss Kitty then tells Little Joe that the money she's trying to offer him, that the money she's trying to offer him, but he can get back home. But Joe tells her that stealing is wrong, and if he took the money, he'll be disobeying God, and he would probably lose his status of Employee of the Month. This only angers Miss Kitty even more as a Little Joe hops back to the counter. Miss Kitty then approaches Little Joe, telling him that since there's no hard feelings, she made some alteration to the cow head that Joe wears while working. Little Joe is happy that Miss Kitty would do something for him, but it meant that he wasn't aware of his costume needing alterations. Before Miss Kitty, oh my gosh, my eyes hurt. Okay, before Miss Kitty then forces the cow head into his head, which Little Joe discovers it's a bit heavier before he falls over. Miss Kitty then says that she put some extra stuffing in it before yelling that there's a thief in the restaurant, which alerts all the Carrot Cowboys at the restaurant. At the moment, Sheriff Bob, played by Bob the Tomato, shows up asking what all the trouble is before Miss Kitty tells him that Little Joe has been stealing from Mr. Carrot ever since he arrived. When Sheriff Bob is confused about this, Miss Kitty then removes the cow head from Little Joe's head, revealing a huge pile of coins, surprising everyone in the restaurant, especially Mr. Carrot, who restates Miss Kitty as Employee of the Month. Because of that, Little Joe is in jail after that. Let me switch positions. Okay. Another year has passed, and Little Joe was still in the jail with two more inmates who have been imprisoned, the baker and the blacksmith, played by Jimmy and Jerry Gord. The baker and the blacksmith then sing about how Little Joe has been more stuffing in their cots, taught them to respect themselves and how to quilt as well. Sheriff Bob then sings that before Little Joe was arrested, his jail was bursting at the seams, but then he came along and taught them all a trade, as well as the fact that he also got a new section. Little Joe then sings about how Miss Kitty got him thrown into the jail a year ago, even though he hadn't done anything. um, and he stuck without bail, but his belief that God is God good helps overcome frustration, and he keep doing what is right, even in spite of incarceration. After the song ends, Sheriff Bob then tells Joe that he has the best attitude of any prisoner, to which Joe replies that God is good, wondering what he has done and has to be down about. Sheriff Bob asks Joe that God is good, then why is all this stuff happening to him? Joe admits that he doesn't know yet, but he will when it's time, and that he needs to keep going, doing what is right. Sheriff Bob seems to understand before telling the crewmates that his lights out because it's another day of coaching ahead, before he turns off the oil lamp after that. I'm so tired. That night, the baker and the blacksmith are asleep, before they are suddenly plagued by their troubling dreams that cause them to wake up screaming. Outside the dodgeball city, the screams are so loud that they cause an avalanche of dodgeballs to rain down the top of the old hobo, played by Charlie Pincher, who is attempting to roast a hot dog over the fire. The baker and the blacksmith then tell little Joe about the dreams they had, and want to know what they did. Little Joe tells them that there's good news and bad news, telling the baker that he's going back to work before telling the blacksmith that he's going up the river. Seconds later, two men then enter the jailhouse. After that, a Blaffiff, played by Archibald Asparagus, has come to tell the baker that he's going to resume his job again, while the slave master, played by Skeleton One, tells the blacksmith that he will be joining the chain gang up the river, which the blacksmith is absolutely terrified about. After the four men had left, Sheriff Bob then asked Little Joe how he did that. Little Joe answers that he always had this thing for dreams. After Sheriff Bob turns out the light again, Joe then asks God what's going on, saying that he tells people what their dreams mean and that they always come true. Joe then says that he's been trying to do what's right, before telling God to be with Paul and his Moses brothers, before finally adding and Jude too. The next morning, there is a town meeting at the town hall, but the mayor of Dodgeball City, played by Mr. Nezer, is sound asleep, while the Bafflet is trying to tell the people that the cash reserves are down 25% due to the fact that the bank is robbed. Outside the town hall, the bandit has robbed the bank, with Sheriff Bob trying to stop him, and he ends up getting hit by a dodgeball for his trouble. The baker then attempts to serve pizza and rolls to a couple of carrot cowboys, before the mayor is heard mumbling in his sleep. Before he wakes up, screaming as well, just like before. The scream is loud enough to cause an avalanche of dodgeballs to fall on top of the hobo once again. Back in Dodgeball City, the mayor then says that his dream was so horrible. Before asking what it means, the baker is able to tell the mayor that he knows someone who might be able to help. Soon, Little Joe has been brought before the mayor, who then says that the baker tells him that he can interpret dreams. Little Joe said he can't, which shocks the mayor, and just as the baker hides behind the Sheriff Bob, but before Little Joe says that he can't interpret dreams, but God can. The mayor then says that he better, or else he'll put Joe back in jail and he'll never get out. Soon the mayor tells him in song about the dream that he had about several fat cows that stood on a hill before before 7 skinny cows came along and ate the fat cows. After that, the mayor then says he had a dream where he was standing in his underwear, wondering what that means before he noticed he's standing in his underwear before he hides. When the mayor tells Joe to interpret the dream, Joe explains that the 7 fat cows means that there will be a 7. Sorry, my family's kind of yelling. That there will be 7 years of plenty of food for everyone, and the 7 skinny cows mean that there will be 7 years of famine following after that. The mayor then asks what they will do before Joe answers that during the 7 good years they should store up plenty of food and get back to the people during the 7 bad years. Little Joe then says that they will need someone with great explanation abilities. For the mayor asks the bailiff what's the state of his sock drawer was, to which the bailiff answers that it's disorganized. Before the mayor tells Joe that he's in charge, which Joe is confused about. The mayor then asks Joe what he's doing standing around. He has a city to save. Everyone starts cheering for Joe after that. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. Soon Joe has been made in charge of storing food during the 7 good years, as well as having been given some spiffy Western duds. Soon the people start singing for Joe after that, just as everyone is hard at work, storing as much food as they can into the silo to be saved for the 7 bad years to come. Bad years come. Once a lot of food has been stored, Sheriff Bob then tells Joe that they're ready for anything, which Joe says that he hopes that they are. Soon a sandstorm then blows up as everyone in Dodgeville City runs for shelter. Just as the sandstorm then quiets down after that, with Mr. Carrot saying that nothing will grow in the soil for years. The mayor then congratulates Little Joe for saving the town, which Joe feels rather downhearted about, hoping that his family is alright. Back in Okie Dokie Coral, he bought the drought has also affected the ranch of Joe's family. His brother saying we are doomed. Joe's younger brother Benjamin, played by Junior Asparagus, tries to assure his brothers that everything will be fine, but the brothers keep repeating the same statement after that. Oh, sorry, I feel like my nose is stuffed. Okay. Back in Dodgeville City, a lot of townspeople have come to the Joe to order and acquire some food from the silo. Sorry, my hair. I feel like watching a movie now. Okay, so that they can get by during the drought. However, Little Joe looks ahead to see his brothers start to approach Dodgeville City. Before he quickly disguises himself and his voice so that they won't recognize him, Little Joe then approaches his brothers, greeting them and telling them that he runs the town before asking them what he can do for them. Jude answers that he and his brothers heard that he has some food stored up, so they were wondering if they could buy some from him. Little Joe asks how many of their inner family. Jude also answers that there are just 11 of them because one of their brothers got ate up by a wire gopher accident, and that they regret every day ever since. Benjamin saying that his closest brother and that he barely remembered him. Little Joe then asks them where their paw is. Before Jude answers that Paw could not make the trick, with Reuben adding that his heart is broken. Little Joe then tells them to see the sheriff before he hops off after that. Little Joe then tells the sheriff about to give them what they need but not let them go. go until he says so. Before Sheriff Bob asks him if he's okay, Little Joe answers he's fine, but tells the sheriff that not to use his name around him. Which Sheriff Bob is confused, but complies with. Once Jude, Reuben, and the others have collected enough food that they need, Little Joe curious to know if his brothers has changed, so he decides to do a test. As he winks at the sheriff, who winks back after that. Before Sheriff Bob then whispers to a carrot cowboy. After that, Little Joe approaches his brothers, asking them if they're ready to go, which Jude answers with, "I reckon so. Your man gave us everything we need." When Jude explains that they tried to pay but were unable to, Little Joe non-tacitly wonders if they would take money from a bunch of low-life dirty thieves, which surprised the brothers, Jude retorting back that they are not thieves, and that they came to buy some food. Little Joe then picks up the pizza from Benjamin and holding an opening box and say, "Them ain't pepperoni's, partners." Little Joe then throws the pizza back, revealing that the bunch of quarters on the pizza. As a result, Benjamin is arrested, thanks to Sheriff Bob and Jude protesting that there's been a mistake, to which Little Joe retorts back with, "You bet there's been a mistake. Your brother tried to steal from me, and we won't take kindly to stealing around these parts." Jude then tells Joe to keep him prisoner and to let Benjamin go free, as he enters the jail cell with Benjamin, before the other brothers also enter the jail cell as well with Jude and Benjamin, as Sheriff Bob then tells him to get out of there before telling Little Joe that they got a problem, realizing that he inadvertently used Joe's name in front of Jude and the others. Then Joe then asks his brothers if they're willing to sacrifice themselves for Benjamin, to which they answered that before Joe was removed, the answer they are. Before Joe removes his disguise, revealing his true identity in front of his brothers, Jude, Reuben, and the others are surprised to see that Little Joe is still alive and well. Before Little Joe also enters the jail cell with them, Jude then tells Joe that he and the others are sorry for what they did to him, telling him to punish him, but not to let his brothers go. Joe then tells Jude and Jude that what he did was wrong, but he intended for harm, God used for good, to save them and save everyone. Jude and the others are surprised that Joe forgives them for what they did before they start cheering happily. However, Paul enters the jail cell telling the sons that they forgot their mittens before he becomes surprised when they see Little Joe. When he sees Little Joe, before he also happily reunites with Little Joe once again as well. Once the entire family has been reunited, everyone starts cheering, and the cheers are so loud they cause an avalanche of dodgeballs to fall on the two bandits that have tied up the hobo, sparing the hobo in roast hot dog. The closing countertop. Back on the countertop, Bob and Larry recap the lesson in the movie. Then the Western version of What Have We Learned song plays. I forgot the song. Okay, and Larry says, "Just a little something I whipped up at cowboy camp." Soon later, they retrieved a Bible verse from QWERTY, which is Romans 8:28. One moment. And we know that God caused all things to work together for good to those who love God. Okay. And Bob then explains to Pete that even though he is currently not in the classroom that he originally wanted to be in, God still loves him. Larry then leaves to get ready for the Danish immersion camp, and the episode ends. Well, that is all we have today, and this is like an almost 30 minutes long video. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. And you read some words in 3, 2, 1. Actually, I decided to redo the ending. I hope you enjoyed the video, and you're gonna be seeing some words, and you got some. No, and I hope you got like something out of the lesson, and you're gonna be seeing some words in what's it? 3, 2, 1.